As our world changes, we'll keep you up to date with the latest information. News Talk KVNU 102 FM 610 AM.
News time is 5:05. I'm Bill Walter with this news update brought to you by the Duck Hunter. A jury has found 54-year-old William Joyner guilty of exposing himself inside a local store several years ago. The North Logan man was taken into custody by law enforcement Thursday, minutes after the jury announced their verdict. According to court records, Joyner was convicted on one count of lewdness involving a child, a third-degree felony. The jury announced their decision in First District Court Thursday morning following a two-day trial. Prosecutors had explained how Logan City police officers were called to the retail grocery store in August 2020 after two girls claimed Joyner exposed and pleasured himself in the aisle of the store. The children, ages 10 and 12 years old, had reported the incident to their mother, who notified store employees. Later, it was determined that the 10-year-old did not actually witness the crime. In an interview conducted by investigators with the 12-year-old girl, she described how Joyner had approached her in the toy department and exposed himself while winking at her. Joyner did not testify during the trial, and his attorney did not present any evidence. Court records showed the jury deliberated for less than an hour before reaching their verdict just before noon. Judge Spencer Walsh ordered Joyner, who had been released on pretrial supervision, to be booked into the Cache County Jail. He scheduled sentencing for June 13th. According to court records, Joyner, who is a registered sex offender, was convicted of similar lewd acts in 2014 and way back in 2000. He could be sentenced to up to 5 years in prison. A judge has denied a pair of new orders filed by attorneys in the case of Chad Daybell. According to the statement, the orders were received from the defense and prosecution attorneys. Chad's defense attorneys filed to dismiss the indictment against him and was ultimately denied by the judge. The judge also denied a motion by prosecutors asking the judge to reconsider moving the trial from Fremont County, Idaho. The trial was previously decided to be moved to Ada County at the courthouse in Boise. Chad and Lori are set for separate trials in Ada County. Lori's will be held in October. Chad's will be in January. Both are charged with the deaths of Tylee Ryan and J.J. Vallow, while Chad Daybell was also indicted for first-degree murder in the death of his former wife, Tammy Daybell. And U.S. Senate candidate Becky Edwards said she is the leading Republican challenger to incumbent Mike Lee and will not end her campaign. This comes just one day after U.S. Senate candidate Allie Isom called on Edwards to drop out of the race, saying she was the only viable conservative alternative. Edwards gathered enough signatures and her name will be on the primary ballot. Isom also gathered enough signatures and will be on the primary. The two candidates met face-to-face Thursday evening and took questions from a group of about 50 voters during an event put on by EngagedInformedAmericans.org. KBNU weather brought to you by Mount Logan Laundry, located at 1st East and 7th South in Brigham City and 5th East, 9th North in Logan, the cleanest spot in town. Becoming mostly clear tonight, low around 30, and then sunny to partly cloudy on Saturday. High temperature tomorrow in the low 60s before more rain showers in the forecast on Sunday. For the latest news, visit CacheValleyDaily.com.
John at the Duck Hunter asks, have you ever checked the dryer vent cover on the outside of your home? It could be broken, full of lint, or worse yet, you could have an unwanted guest living in it. John suggests you check your dryer vent today. And if you can't, call John at the Duck Hunter. He'll do a visual inspection, and if needed, run a camera through the dryer vent line to see what's going on in there. For a free consultation, call the Duck Hunter, 770-4813.
We are the Duck Hunter. Breathe better, save money, protect your home. We are the Duck Hunter.
Dave Ramsey from 6 till 9 on News Talk KVNU 102 FM and 610 AM.
News Talk 610 AM, 102.1 FM, KVNU.
NMLS 1817019.
What's a freedom loan? This is Rod with LendRate Mortgage.
Here's an example. On the day this ad was recorded, the largest credit union in Utah quoted a 30-year rate of 4.875% with over $8,000 in closing costs. LendRight's Freedom Loan APR is 4.625% and covers 100% of the closing costs for the same $647,000 loan amount. So you get a 0.25% lower rate, a lower monthly payment, and we pay all the closing costs. Save thousands in upfront costs and get a lower rate. Call 801-APPROVE or visit lendrightmortgage.com. Declare freedom from higher rates and fees with the Freedom Loan. Call 801-APPROVE or visit lendrightmortgage.com.
If someone in your family is graduating from school, give the gift of time with a watch from S.E. Needham Jewelers. A watch is the most traditional and lasting gift you can give. We have a large selection of quality watches which are all marked with our integrity price guarantee. We will also engrave name, date, or a special message at no extra charge. Every watch purchase comes with free lifetime battery replacement and is backed by our professional watch technicians. On every wrist, a Needham watch. Open Monday through Saturday, 10 to 7. S. Needham Jewelers, middle of the block, at the sign of the clock.
When the pain becomes overwhelming, when the bills from your accident pile up, when you nervously ask yourself, what if? Because you don't know what life after this trauma will hold, it's time for you to consider professional legal counsel. But don't get a lawyer, get the bear.
My name's Keenan Prescott. Berenson and Caldwell helped me manage a lot of different aspects to a complicated case. Someone hit me head on with their car, and then I've had a lot of different legal things surrounding that, like my health insurance broke their contract with me. My medical bills would not have been paid without Berenson and Caldwell, and I would have ended up owing my health insurance quite a bit of money. They've been really good at explaining things and helping me understand their process.
At Berenson and Caldwell, our experienced and client-focused attorneys relentlessly fight for your interests. We make sure your case is resolved fairly and quickly, and we do everything within our power to get your life back on track. Visit BerensonLaw.com to instantly connect and receive a free case review of your injury. Don't wait to ask what if. Visit BerensonLaw.com.
Wow, your cars look so shiny.
Thanks. I've been taking them to Green Gorilla Car Wash. Thanks to their new ceramic application, my cars have never had such a glossy shine.
Sounds expensive.
You haven't heard about their sale? Right now, their Jungle membership with ceramic coating is half off for every vehicle. Instead of $30 per month, I'm only paying $14.99 from now until September 2022.
That's almost a whole year.
I know. My half-price membership is good at both Green Gorilla locations in the valley.
I better head there now.
My name is Gloria Nadal, and I chose Roof Rescue. They exceeded my expectations because they were able to follow through with the insurance company, establish a rapport, and ultimately the insurance company took responsibility and paid for my roof to be replaced. The products that they used were top-notch. My roof is beautiful. I would recommend them over and over again. My name is Gloria Nadal, and I encourage you to choose Roof Rescue.
Coming up on the Monday edition of the Clay Travis and Buck Sexton Show, we'll have the latest for you on the Biden administration's efforts to distract the American people from the massive failures at the border, on the economy, on crime. You name it, the spin machines are going to be going fast and furious. We'll separate fact from fiction, bring you up with all the latest stories, everything you need to know coming up on the Clay and Buck Show.
10 to 1 on News Talk KVNU, 102 FM at 610 AM.
Are you Gus's son?
I'm Owen. I'm to drive you to Wichita to catch a train?
Yeah, we'd appreciate it.
Train don't run out of Wichita. Unless you're a hog or a cattle.
Welcome back to KVN News For the People. Hour 2 of today's show. For the People movie show. Andy Morgan joining us in just a couple of minutes. We're going to talk about The Northman. This is a movie that, for one reason or another, I don't know. I haven't seen it yet. Andy will be able to tell us, though. Getting a lot of discussion. A lot. Also in theaters this weekend, I'm curious about this. This has been, I don't know, if you're if you are online at all, you've probably been the recipient of or even partaken in the huge Nicolas Cage meme that is out there, or meme world that is out there. There are several of them, but he is in a movie that kind of plays on this. And I don't know if the movie was written for this purpose, to play on these social media memes around Cage and his career. But he's in a movie that does, one way or another, play on them, whether it was intentional or just a story idea someone else had. It's called The Unbearable Weight of Massive Talent, in which Nicolas Cage plays Nicolas Cage. And the title alone kind of gives away, what part of the plot is. The unbearable weight of massive talent is, of course, Nick Cage's talent. But there's an action comedy. It's got Pedro Pascal, who is the Mandalorian, although always behind a mask. He was in
Game of Thrones.
He was the guy from the South, right?
I would be your champion.
Yeah. And then he wasn't.
I would be your champion. Spoiler alert. Spoiler alert.
Dead.
I will not be your champion.
Spoiler alert, I was not champion after all.
Spoiler
I was for a while,
alert.
but then I wasn't.
My friend is a tiny baby Yoda.
He was also in Narcos,
He's
which was really good.
Not a Latino actor. Let me. That didn't sound right. He doesn't, like a lot of people assume that he.
I see. Okay.
And he's not. He's just, you listen to him talk in interviews, and he's like, "Hey guys, what's up?"
Yeah, he actually sounds like he's from Nebraska.
He might be. Are you the Pedro Pascal from the Brazilian Pascals? No, actually, I'm from the Omaha Pascals.
Thank you, though, for that assumption. Doogie Howser's in this as well.
He is.
Neil Patrick Harris. Sharon Morgan.
It's
Alessandra Mas. I won't even try. Italian last name. Alessandra, Italian last name. Tiffany Haddish. I saw the trailer for this, Andy, and it looks hilarious. But my big question is did they know, whoever wrote this movie, who did write this movie? I'll look. Whoever wrote this movie, did they know they were playing on the Nick Cage memes that you see online? Or do you think somebody just had this idea and it's just such a funny idea that it just happened to? Because, I'm always curious about this. How did Nick Cage become this cult icon?
Well, I mean,
especially online.
Here's the thing. This is my take on the whole Nick Cage cult icon.
Okay.
Is everyone has always known Nicolas Cage as a good actor. I mean, not even a good actor, a great actor. But even from the beginning, in the mid to late 80s into the 90s, he was excessive. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
The way he delivered. And he really kind of, think back to Raising Arizona, how crazy that show is.
So many social engagements.
and that's
so little time.
But Nicolas Cage drives a lot of that craziness. And, he's obviously, he gained fame in Moonstruck with Cher.
Why does everybody forget about 8mm? Oh, I remember why.
No, that's later. But
no one wants to remember 8mm. That was horrible.
Put a pin in that for just a second, because that's where we get into this. So
this was my favorite thing to do. People would always be talking there for a while, like, "Oh, have you seen 7? Man, I felt like I needed a shower after I saw 7." I'm like, "Oh yeah, you seen 8mm?
Yeah. You've seen Snake Eyes?
Go see 8mm."
No,
you think 7 was icky?
Nick Cage gets into this thing where it kind of starts. He's in Guarding Tess with Shirley MacLaine, and then he's in.
I forgot about.
And
that.
then he's in Honeymoon in Vegas. Honeymoon in Vegas to me is what kind of kicks off.
That's when
the peak Nicolas Cage.
Yeah, when he discovered he could play that.
Well, and follow
that role, that comedic role.
Yeah, and he kind of did that Bruce Willis thing, because he was more of a dramatic actor, and like Peggy Sue Got Married and Moonstruck, and and he was in some really weird 80s stuff, like the vampire movie, the Once Bitten or whatever that is.
Once Bitten
with Lauren Bacall. Anyway,
I don't think Nick Cage says no to a lot.
No, and here's
which is cool, but yeah.
Well, what I like about this is, so if you look at his career, he gets to Honeymoon in Vegas, and that kind of cements him as sort of this Bruce Willis type. Like, okay, we can probably have this guy do some action. He's charming. People like him. And so this is when we get into the Nick Cage goes from that to, what's the movie where they win the lotto ticket, him and Bridget Fonda. Yeah, Bridget Fonda. And then he goes.
Isn't that just the lottery? I can't remember something.
Then he's in The Rock, which is, a just that kind of blows up. That's like, to me, that's almost at the summit of Everest Cage. And then he does Con Air, and he does Face Off. So he's got these 3 action movies that just are like boom, boom, boom. People are like, they're cheesy, they're corny, but like he is the star. He is the driver. And then he caps that all off by winning an Oscar with Leaving Las Vegas. So, you get to the late 90s and it's like everyone's like, what can't Nick Cage do, right?
Yeah.
He's this he's reached the acting zenith at that point. He's both critically and commercially successful. And then he does, and that's when it kind of goes a different way. Then he goes into,
he's like,
8mm.
I'm going to start experimenting.
Yeah. I mean, but again, think about it. Nick Cage he's elastic. He is a rubber band.
Yeah.
He springs back so fast,
because for a while, I mentioned last week that I'd rewatched Kick-Ass and Kick-Ass 2, and the Nick Cage in Kick-Ass
he's great.
He's great, but I remember when that came out, I remember thinking, his career's he's done.
But he was one of the biggest.
Because this was a low budget independent film. It ended up being really good, but I mean, this was not something that Oscar-winning actors are usually. In.
And I think that's what guys have to do sometimes to look at Bruce Willis. He derailed his career with Color of Night and all those crappy movies after Die Hard.
Forgot about Color of Night.
Yeah, and then he's just he is like direct to DVD guy, and then he's in The Sixth Sense.
Yeah,
this indie horror movie, little known director.
Yeah,
her first time director actually, I think, and it launches him back into kind of that stratosphere, Yeah. And that's Nick Cage. I mean, Nick Cage, he'll be in something like you said, like 8mm, where you're like, ooh, this movie, I hate every minute of it.
It's so. Ugh.
And then he jumps, and then he's in Adaptation.
Which is one of my favorite movies.
And you're like, this is so good. And there's other movies. So let's.
I've never really hated him. We should
No.
clarify this. Nick Cage isn't the bad part of 8mm. If you go out and seek this movie out, I don't know where you can see it. I'm not going to look either. But
Roger Ebert always said it's the writers and directors, not the actors.
Yeah,
actors are generally skilled.
He's great in this movie, but the theme or the story.
Oh yeah, snuff film.
Everything about it is just so.
Doesn't it have?
So,
I can't think of his name off the top. But anyway, put that on the shelf for a second, because then you come back to what I call
just a dark movie. Too dark. Made Seven look like The Wizard of Oz.
It is. But then you have this second level of Nick Cage's career, which is in the 2000s, right?
For some reason, that little analogy I just made, for a split second, I'm thinking they should put Morgan Freeman in Wizard of Oz.
Somebody asked that question today. They said, "What's your favorite Morgan Freeman movie?" And I said, "Snakes on a Plane." Anyway, no, but.
Did they pause? They're just like, oh yeah, me too.
No, but Nick Cage has this moment in the 2000s where he's starting to be in things like Bangkok Dangerous and the remake of The Wicker Man and Bad Lieutenant, New Orleans, sequel.
It's like he's gotten to a point where he doesn't care. If it's,
I don't think he did.
I wonder if it's just like, hey, this would be fun for me. And he doesn't really care what it does to his career.
I don't think he cared that. I'd throw out two things. I think he really enjoys acting. He loves it. So
good Lord, he's a voice on Bob the Builder.
But he's also
in everything.
But I think what happened, remember he got into some financial trouble?
Yeah.
And I think, honestly, he had to pull like a Liam Neeson / Samuel L. Jackson.
Can you pay me under the table? I have a little IRS problem.
He was like, they were like, you're going to have to be in every movie you get offered for 6 years, right?
And he's like, all right.
One movie he's in that I actually think is grossly unappreciated is a movie called Knowing.
I don't think I've seen or heard of that.
It's kind of a sci-fi horror thriller. Yeah. The little black rocks that the dudes leave.
Yeah, I like that, actually.
I'll have to go back and watch it. It's been probably 6 or 7 years. But
it's kind of in the vein of that. What was the... I don't want to say slow sci-fi, but like more...
But it was...
A little more thoughtful.
It was scary, too.
What was the Annihilation? And the other one where she's trying to talk to aliens through the glass wall or through the fog wall.
Yeah,
what was that?
Arrival.
It's in that vein, Knowing. But I really liked it.
So then he becomes this, this internet meme persona, like you said, kind of the last, I want to say, 5 or 6 years.
Oh, we should mention Mandy too, the horror movie.
Yeah, so that's my thing. Is
that's
then
another good one.
He kind of jumps back in like 2019. We start to see Nick Cage kind of creeping back in because again, he's in all these other
more selective.
Yeah, he's in all these. Not even selective. He makes some. It's almost like he kind of. I don't know. I don't want to say paid his dues, but he just kind of popped up. Mandy put him back on the scene. He was in. There's another H.P. Lovecraft movie that he's in. I can't think of the name. All the bright colors or something. I can't think of what it's called. I'll look it up. And then and then he's in Pig, and I think I don't know. I've never seen someone jump the shark more times in a career than Nick Cage.
Yeah.
And in its essence is what The Unbearable Weight of Massive Talent is. That movie jumps the shark so many times. It's not even. I mean, you've got Nick Cage playing Nick Cage, who's talking to Nick Cage, who's like his other personality, and he's like kind of doing like a live Comic-Con with the guy, but it ends up being that he puts himself into his own action movie. He's in his like a real life action movie, and then he ends up getting made into a movie. Which he writes, and you know what I mean. It's really, really. It's honestly, I people are probably gonna think I'm strange here, but it's my favorite movie of the year so far.
Really?
Yeah, absolutely.
Put a little pin in that. We should keep talking about Nick Cage because this is interesting. But we got to take a break.
I would like to know. You know what I'd like to know, since this is like Nick Cage Day at the radio. Is we can talk about, there's a lot. May, we're heading into May. May's going to be a big month. Huge,
sure.
A lot of big movies. There's a lot of new streaming stuff coming, but I want to talk to people. I want to know what people's favorite Nick Cage movie is, and if they have a bonus question, like what's your favorite Nick Cage quote? And I want to hear you do it.
I was wrong about the break. I forgot. I should have looked at the schedule.
Oh,
here.
That's okay.
We can keep talking.
No, I want to see
your favorite Nick Cage movie.
Yeah, favorite Nick Cage movie, and then I want to hear you do a Nick Cage line. You know,
that is I can only do a few of them, and that one I did from Raising Arizona was actually John Goodwin. That doesn't count.
What is your favorite Nick Cage movie?
My favorite, absolute favorite. Man, that's a hard one. Well, okay, I want to say something about this answer. I think his character in Kick-Ass is definitely part of it. I didn't really like the movie, but
I just thought of a line in that.
In Kick-Ass?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, he has some great lines in that one. And I also have heard a little tangent. I've also heard that he improvised a lot of that.
The scene where he's dying.
Yeah.
And he's like, "Oh, baby, go." You know what I'm talking about?
Oh, it's hilarious. And he's screaming like a preacher.
Yeah.
And
and that's that to me is quintessential Nick Cage, right?
Yeah. I think so. My favorite Nick Cage, honestly, is probably that character in Kick-Ass. But my favorite, if you want something a little more mainstream, I didn't really like The Rock, but I liked him a lot in The Rock.
Oh, see, I thought, you know what I thought for sure you were going to say? I thought you were going to say Captain Corelli's mandolin.
Oh, no. Not bad, though. I didn't hate that as much.
I thought you were going to say Wind Talkers for sure.
That one I hated. I didn't hate the mandolin one as much as... I want to put a clause on this because I have this suspicion that when I see this new movie, the Unbearable Weight of Massive Talent, that it might become my favorite Nick. This is the plot. I'll just read it to listeners because this alone had me like guffaw laughing. Nicolas Cage stars as Nick Cage in an action comedy, The Unbearable Weight of Massive Talent. Creatively unfulfilled and facing financial ruin, Nick Cage, 15 years ago.
Yeah.
The fictionalized version of Cage must accept a $1 million offer to attend the birthday of a dangerous superfan. So he's basically
hobby.
He's broke and he's being extorted by a superfan. So he's not happy about having to go to do this.
Well, and he does it because he loses a part. He wants this part really, really bad. And and then he finds out he has this hotel bill because he's living at like how like some of the celebrities live at a hotel. They're like, $600,000 bill to whatever the hotel is. And he's like, well, they love me there. And then he gets locked out. And when he locks out, he calls his agent and he goes, I'll do it.
So he basically he's being extorted by a crazy super fan because he has to for the money. And then somehow in the middle of this, it leads to him being recruited by the CIA. and then what he has to do is play some of his most iconic characters from his actual films over the years in this, because it
ends up happening is there's a lot of twists in this. I don't want to give it too much away because the straight what you just read there and kind of what you see in the trailer, there's some twists.
That's not all of it.
There's some turns that happen.
That's cool.
I will tell you though that just the opening of that movie just grabbed me.
Really?
He's at a dinner with I need to look who it was. I didn't know if it was a famous director or screenwriter. It looked familiar. I almost kept thinking it was David O. Russell.
Oh.
And he's talking about, he's like, I've been reading the script. I love it. I really, really want this part. He's like, and I can do a Boston accent. Don't you worry. And the guy is like, oh, I believe you. He's like, you're great. And then he goes, I can read for you. And he's like, no, you don't need to read for me. He's, because it's Nick Cage, right? Like, you don't need him to read for you. And he's like, and then as he's getting to the car, Nick Cage just bursts into one of the scenes in the parking lot. He's like, yo, medulla oblongata. Like, you know how he gets into that, like, he's just kind of crazy Nick Cage. Yeah. I mean, the example that everyone always goes to is in the Wicker Man remake when he's like, well, what are you putting in there? No, not the beast. Oh, the beast, the beast. The
unfortunate thing about that is he wasn't trying to be crazed in that one.
Well, he just had his legs. Just had his legs broken in the movie. So there needs to be some context before and after. My favorite Nicolas Cage acting and personality that he does is started in Honeymoon in Vegas. There's a scene, remember, where he goes and he's first gambling with James Caan in the hotel room, and he obviously, he puts up his girlfriend, basically bets his girlfriend, and then after, when it shows him telling her, and she's like, you've turned me into a prostitute, Jack.
Oh, yeah.
And he's all, thank you. I know that now.
Because he's had his light bulb moment that he's been a horrible person. And, I forgot about that scene.
Just that kind of his delivery of those lines. There's another scene later on in the movie where he's sitting in a cab with Pat Morita, who, for the people that don't know, Pat Morita is a household name, is Mr. Miyagi. And and he's like, where are we? And he's like, we're at Chief Corman's house. And he's like, no, I said Tommy Corman. He's like, oh, I thought you said Chief Corman. Anyway, and then he kind of pulls that same thing with Pat Morita. And
That's
anyway,
hilarious.
it's really, it's kind of his freakouts. That's what's funny about it. And then he, later on in The Rock, he does the same thing with one of my favorite parts is when, there's that scene where he's like, oh, really elegant string of pearls.
That's why he does it once in National Treasure too.
Oh, we didn't even talk about the National Treasure. The other line.
He has one really, because throughout both National Treasure movies, he's not really Nick Cage.
No,
that's the most un-Nick Cage I think he's been in a movie.
He's almost pretty serious. It's a little more serious Nick Cage.
But there's that one scene in National Treasure when they tear the thing on accident where he does the Nick. Yeah. Well, the string of pearls thing.
I thought about Gone. Another one we forgot. Gone in 60 Seconds.
Yeah,
that's another one.
That's a really good movie. That everyone thinks is part of the Fast and the Furious, and it's not.
There's that other line.
Really good movie
in The Rock when he says, "Quick question. Hi, I'm Stanley Goodspeed.
See,
what's your favorite? What's your Elton John?" I hate that soft stuff. And then he says,
the soft stuff.
Well, I thought it might be the Rocket Man because it's you. Just his delivery.
He makes, like I say, the reason that I would list as my favorite Nick Cage movie is because without him in that movie, I hated it.
Yeah.
I was not impressed by that movie. I thought everyone else was kind of phoning it in. And these are people who don't ever phone it in.
I just thought of something. Nick Cage is the...
he was in Snowden, too. Did you see that?
No, I didn't. I didn't know he was in it.
What's Third Rock from the Sun guy?
Yeah, Joseph Gordon-Levitt.
Gordon-Levitt, yeah. He plays Edward Snowden. Nick Cage is an agent. In
His dad?
Like, tiny little role, yeah.
No, he's also, I was just thinking there was a bit back in the late 2000s or early 2010s with Andy Samberg on the Weekend Update where it was called In the Cage with Nick Cage.
Oh, yeah.
You remember that?
Yeah.
And then the time where they had Nick Cage on with Andy Samberg doing Nick Cage.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Which, that's what this movie...
There's a line in that where he describes, he's like, I've got the leathery complexion of a 50-year-old gremlin or something. I'll have to look that up. But that I guess that's the point I'm trying to bring about here is that Nick Cage, we can all kind of make fun because he is a little crazy and he knows it, I think. But he's a good actor. No one will dispute that.
Here's one I've never seen. To leave this on, The Weatherman.
Oh, yeah.
2005.
Is that Ridley Scott?
Gore Verbinski?
Oh, no. Gore Verbinski. That's Pirates of the Caribbean.
Michael Caine.
Nicolas Cage. Did you see Michael Caine join Twitter for 7.5 minutes?
Yeah.
During the whole Elon
hello,
Musk.
Everybody.
He's like, hello, good night, my sweet darlings.
Yep. And then deletes the
People
account.
were like, did Michael Caine just kill himself? Or what was that?
I love that.
Hello. Good night, my sweet darlings.
I like all these people that rejoined. Well, we won't get into that.
He's like, hello. Goodbye.
All these people that rejoined and then immediately got banned for terms of service violations.
Wait, come on. I thought this meant we could be racist.
No, you still can't do that, sir or ma'am.
That's funny.
Oh, man. All right. There's our Nick Cage talk. On the other side, I know, Andy, you want to talk about the Northman. You want to talk about... we can talk more Nick Cage. And Andy has a challenge for listeners, too. If you want to list your favorite ever Nick Cage movie or role, 753-5868. We'll be back after the news with KVNU's Bill Walter.
Thank you, Jason. KVNU News brought to you by Mount Logan Laundry. A man's been charged in connection with multiple shootings along I-15 in Juab County last year. KUTV reports the 2 people were injured and at least 5 vehicles were hit with bullets in late November 2021 when someone driving on I-15 randomly shot at other travelers between Nephi and Scipio. According to court documents, 19-year-old Adam Geen of Genola, Utah, was charged with 2 counts of felony discharge of a firearm with injury, 5 counts of felony discharge of a firearm, a Class A misdemeanor count of possession of a weapon with intent to assault, and 5 misdemeanor counts of criminal mischief. The Juab County Attorney's Office state that Gene shot at 5 vehicles at about 3 a.m. on November 30th, 2021. 2 occupants in separate vehicles were injured in the gunfire, and one of them required treatment at a hospital. November's shooting was one of at least 2 that happened on I-15 in Juab County last year. Authorities arrested a man in May 2021 who allegedly shot at a driver on I-15 and stole a sheriff's deputy car. A former Idaho lawmaker has been convicted of raping a 19-year-old legislative intern after a dramatic trial in which the young woman fled the witness stand during testimony, saying, "I can't do this." The verdict was returned today. The intern told a state house supervisor that Aaron Von Ellinger raped her at his apartment after the 2 had dinner at a Boise restaurant in March 2021. He said the sex was consensual. At the time, Von Ellinger was a Republican state representative from Lewiston, but he later resigned. Von Ellinger was found guilty of rape. He was found not guilty of sexual penetration with a foreign object. Afterwards, prosecutors lauded the victim for her courage in coming forward. All over for the Utah Jazz. Luka Doncic and Jalen Brunson each scored 24 points, and the Dallas Mavericks beat the Jazz 98-96 last night at Vivint Arena in Salt Lake City in Game 6 to wrap up the first-round series. After Brunson hit a three-pointer from the corner, Mike Conley was called for traveling with 5 seconds to go, and Brunson made one of 2 free throws with 4.3 seconds to play. The Jazz got an open look for Bojan Bogdanovic on the wing, but he came up short. And the Mavericks move on to face top-seeded Phoenix in the second round. Donovan Mitchell had 23 points, 9 assists, and 8 rebounds for Utah. Bogdanovich finished with 19 points. KVNU weather brought to you by Berenson Caldwell. When the bills from your accident pile up, it's time for you to consider professional legal advice. It's time for you to get the bear. Berenson Caldwell. Visit berensonlaw.com. Becoming mostly clear tonight, low around 30, sunny to partly cloudy tomorrow, high temperature in the low 60s, and rain showers on Sunday. For the latest news, visit cachevalleydaily.com.
Have you pulled your spring sheets out of storage, and do they smell stale and need freshening up? How about your blankets and your quilts? Are things dingy from winter use? Well, go to Mount Logan Laundry. It takes no time at all to freshen everything up with their 55 and 80-pound washers and dryers, and it costs a lot less than the dry cleaners, and free Wi-Fi and drop-off service, too. Mount Logan Laundry really is the cleanest spot in town. Find them at 5th East and 9th North in Logan, or in Brigham City on the corner of 1st East and 7th South.
News Talk 610 AM, 102.1 FM, KVNU.
The temperature's warmer, and here at Alpine Home Medical, we couldn't be happier to serve you as we mark our 25th anniversary this spring. Hi, I'm Jay Broadbent, and I want to thank you for being the best customers over the last 25 years. We couldn't have done it without you. If you've shopped with us before, thank you. If not, we want to make sure that we're your one-stop shop for all your home medical needs. You'll find the most selection and best quality products. Check out our power scooters for better freedom to help you move around and get you where you need to go easier. With compression socks, CPAP supplies, and incontinence products, our resupply team ships discreetly to your home, where you need it, when you need it. You get it all in unmarked boxes to protect your privacy. Alpine Home Medical has 10 locations across Utah and southern Idaho to serve you. Visit us online at alpinehomemedical.com. That's alpinehomemedical.com.
Well, fans, it's the final play of the game. Home team's down by 1 point with 10 seconds on the clock. Johnson's looking for the open inbounds pass. He gets it to Dawson, and he breaks free. He's driving for a quick layup, and what? He stopped mid-drive. What's he doing? Insane! He just quit playing.
If you got your first vaccinations for COVID-19, don't stop there. Visit coronavirus.utah.gov to schedule your booster.
This man needs help. Well, I certainly hope this little incident hasn't put you off flying, miss. Statistically speaking, of course, it's still the safest way to travel.
Welcome back to the For the People movie show with Andy Morgan of AndyAtTheMovies.com joining us here in the studio. We just spent some quality time, which we haven't done for a long time, talking about Nick Cage with his movie in theaters this weekend.
That's high praise, Jason.
That's high praise. A silverback gorilla in a suit. The unbearable weight of massive talent. This is rated R, right? I assume.
It is, yeah, for language.
Okay.
I was actually thinking of something, total random subject here, but every week I've just been grabbing a movie either that I've seen a long time ago, like we were talking last week. You remember I'd watched Alien.
Oh, yeah.
And that led me to Alien Covenant and Prometheus. This week, I was just perusing the HBO Max film catalog. And I found a movie, because you and I talked last week, or maybe it was the week before, about when we used to go to the video store, which probably a good portion of listeners don't remember ever doing because they didn't live in that age. They were like, I thought they used to just deliver you the movies to you in an envelope. No, before then you went to a store and sometimes they didn't have the movie and then you had to wait a long time. But we were talking about that and I mentioned the fact that, as a kid in the 80s, let's say 9-10 years old, you go to the video store and you see, the Chuck Norris and you see Indiana Jones and Star Wars and Ice Pirates and Time Bandits and whatever.
Oh, yeah.
But then there'd be that one section.
Ice Pirates. Man, that is a funny movie.
There'd be that one section, where you're like, what's this show? 10. Why is that? There's a lady in a bikini. What lies behind that door? Right?
Yeah, that was.
And I obviously, and then you think about the movie, and so that movie has Dudley Moore, which is a name that doesn't get spoken enough. I don't think.
Arthur's still one of the funniest movies.
So I noticed 10 was on HBO Max, and I thought, man, I never, my parents obviously didn't let me see this when I was.
I've never seen it for the same reason. That and Tom Hanks in Bachelor Party. That was another one. I was made
you
to
were not
leave the room.
were not allowed to see.
Yep.
Here's the funny thing about 10. So obviously it's dated. It's 1979, but it's kind of dated in a good way because some of that stuff is kind of circling back.
Oh.
But here's the thing. It is a little. It's a late 70s, 80s comedy, so it's got some nudity in it. I'm just cautioning. And it's kind of in that swinging 70s, where everyone's like, "Hey, come over to our shag carpet. We're having a party. Drop your keys. Drop your keys in the bowl." That kind of thing. But here's the thing about Dudley Moore. This is pre-Arthur, by the way. He is so funny. He's just a little. I mean, he's 5'2", right? So he's a shorter fellow. He's
Keebler elf.
Yeah, actually, that's pretty accurate. But
that's what he always reminded me of.
Well, he was in the Santa Claus movie, so that might have been what helped you with that.
Which I thought was a huge mistake on his part.
Could you play an elf? Sure.
Welcome to typecast.
No, he. But here's what's great about that is in the movie 10, he reminded me of he has the charm of Hugh Grant, but he's got the physical comedy of like Steve Martin.
Yeah.
And it just, I laughed. I thought I'd watch maybe 20 minutes of 10 and I'd be turning it off. I watched the whole thing and I laughed so hard. The other thing
check that out.
The other thing that's funny about it has Julie Andrews. I forgot that Julie Andrews and Blake Edwards were married. And so she was in a lot of his saucy comedies. So, if you want to maintain the Mary Poppins image and also
naughty,
Maria from Sound of Music, maybe don't watch 10, but it was really funny. And actually that started me down another hole where I was like, I got to find all these 80s comedies that I missed.
Because there were a lot of 80s comedies that I thought were some of them honestly I went and saw later as an adult and wanted to call my parents up and like, this is what you didn't want me to see. I would have been okay.
My parents would not let us watch Tootsie or Ghostbusters until they saw them, and I had no interest in Tootsie. I didn't.
They took us to Tootsie in the theater.
The problem with pre-1984, people can complain all they want about PG-13, right? But it was like rolling the dice prior to 1984.
PG-13, yeah.
Before PG-13, right? Because you had R and you had PG.
Yeah.
And there's people that'll rent PG movies. Like somebody was like, I rented Kramer versus Kramer, and there was full lady nudity, and I was like, yeah. And they're like, it's PG. And
there was a lot of that because, that's why it was PG-13 was invented. But yeah, there was a lot of.
PG was. It was just there was such a gulf between the two.
Yeah,
which also makes me laugh when people get mad when they take their kids to a PG-13 movie and they're like, this was a little too inappropriate. And I was like, did you miss the 13 part? Like, I don't care,
Well, did your parents do the thing where they'd see it first and then they would... So, like, I was...
Prior to PG-13,
Like, Porky's was out. but Police Academy...
It wasn't for 10-year-old Jason? They weren't going to let you in?
This probably would have been... what year did that come out?
Those are... Porky's is like 1981 or 82, I'm pretty sure.
Oh, yeah. So I would have been really young for that.
That's okay, man.
Police Academy...
Every kid wanted to see Porky's.
But Police Academy was okay. Like, that was...
But Police Academy was later. Wasn't that like 86?
It was.
You're probably
3
middle
or 4
school
years later.
Think.
Yeah, so I never knew if it was my age or if it was that they saw them and decided the comedy was, different. And I could handle
Steve
it.
Guttenberg.
Yeah.
Remember when America went for the Steve Guttenberg
glad
phase?
His career didn't last.
When they were like, "Hey,
that was a horrible dark time."
Now you ready? Now how about Cocoon?
Yeah. Get this? They thought about putting Steve Guttenberg in RoboCop
as Peter Weller's character.
Yeah. That's how much Steve Guttenberg was on a riding a wave. I'm like, that would have ruined it.
It's crazy to me how old. Like, so in 1979, I was like, Julie Andrews looks like, I was like, what is she, 25? She was 45 in 1979.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
Same thing. Yeah. This shows you how old Robert Redford is. I was watching The Natural a couple years ago, and I said to Siri, Siri, how old is Robert Redford in 19 when he made The Natural?
He's boy, you wouldn't believe it.
He said he's 48, and I was like, wow.
Yeah, he was. Yeah,
wow.
He's always
he's always been old.
As he is now. He's always looked young, younger than he is.
He has the oaky complexion of a cigar store Indian,
as
the reference
Nick Cage
to
was once described.
Nick Cage, yeah.
Before we move on to the Northman, can we? Have you watched The Moon Knight at all?
Yes.
I think this is fascinating to me because this is the most Marvel Universe thing so far, I think. But it's still there. I mean, it's still in the universe. But then, as I understand it, this is a one and done thing. There's not going to be a second season. There's not. They wanted to tell this story, and that's it.
I don't. And is next week the season finale? Is there 6 episodes or 10?
Well, I think they split. They made one season and split it, I think. So there's 6 you can watch now and more coming, but it's all called season 1. I should. That's what I'd read.
I'm up to date, and I don't know how they're gonna. If next week is the season finale, I legitimately don't know how they're going to how they're going to tie a nice bow on this.
Well, so the reason I wanted to bring this up is that we've talked a lot about next phase Marvel. Is this going to be a hit, or are they going to be able to repeat any of this success? And I've thought yes the whole time. This is the first time that I've seen
where you've questioned it.
No, this is the first time that I've watched this and thought, you know what, their options are endless.
They're endless. The one thing I have a problem with is
if it's not done right,
it doesn't feel connected right now.
Yeah.
So what I'm wondering,
I think it's hard to connect this one.
Well, let's talk about the last 3.
By the way,
movies.
watch it. It's great.
It is great.
But
Oscar Isaac, there should be an Emmy nomination for this.
Especially considering that 90% of this, what is essentially a superhero action series,
talking to himself.
It's just a close-up on his face.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that would be hard to do.
Here's what I would say is you had Black Widow last summer that just kind of felt like a period on that character, introducing us to a little bit of stuff.
And I thought that was a cool way to wrap it up.
You had Spider-Man, in the multiverse, and that was and that kind of put Peter Parker's character on a different arc, right? Setting him a different way. And then you've got Shang-Chi, and then you've got Eternals, right?
Yeah.
And so this might upset some Marvel fans and just FYI, I love Marvel movies. I mean, even the ones that are not the greatest, I still think they're good.
Yeah. Like Thor 4.
It just doesn't.
Haven't seen it yet, but it's going to fall into that category.
It doesn't feel. I don't feel a big connection right now. And I looked back and I asked myself, did I feel that in 2008 or 2009? Probably not.
I didn't with Captain America and Iron Man at first.
So I think
I liked them all.
Yeah, I think
but I didn't feel that. Something happened.
I think we're getting to that
until that first Avengers movie.
Yeah, I think we're getting. I don't know when that's going to be, but I think they've got to introduce something that they're working towards
to bind it all.
And I don't think. I mean, all we have is this crazy multiverse. We don't know what that means.
Are you saying you don't think it's going to be Doctor Strange 2 with?
It could be, and that's next Friday. Here's the thing: I don't know. Knowing Marvel, they've got something up their sleeve.
Yeah.
I don't think that they've...
Because Feige is still involved, right?
Yeah, and I don't think... If they've got to the point now where they just feel like they can just throw it against the wall and it's going to be a home run, they're going to see the demise of their franchise really fast. That's what I mean? Just ask DC how that works.
And that's sort of what Moon Knight, the trailer for Doctor Strange 2, the Hawkeye series... all of this, I've been thinking, you guys are getting over your ski. You think you've got more energy to ride on than you maybe have.
Mm-hmm.
And it concerned me. And I liked all of these. Well, I didn't really care. Hawkeye was...
It was just kind of vanilla.
It was a nice filler.
It
was fun to watch.
I felt the same way about Hawkeye as I did with The Winter Soldier and Falcon and the Winter Soldier.
Yeah.
Like, I know there's people that love that. I couldn't think of anything more uninteresting to watch. Two most uninteresting characters.
I like that one a bit more because I always liked Bucky's character. I always thought there was some really cool potential there.
Bucky has potential. No offense to Sam. I just am not. Sam's not an interesting character to me.
No, that one. And as I understand it, they've made that discovery themselves or that realization themselves.
Well, he's Captain America now, man, so...
please don't.
Anyway,
Marvel, please
they've
don't.
got to be heading in a direction, and I hope we see that soon. I'll be honest, getting into the summertime now, I'm starting to feel like we're back on track a little bit. I mean, we've got Doctor Strange next month. We've got Top Gun. We got Jurassic World Dominion in the first part of June, and a little more over a month away.
Yeah.
We've got Thor: Love and Thunder in July. I mean, we got a lot of big stuff coming. The fall will be filled with big stuff. We got Avatar 2. They'll be hitting at some point. I think there's a teaser, just so if you're an Avatar fan, the teaser for Avatar 2 will be attached to Doctor Strange next week.
Oh, really? That soon? Wow.
Well, Disney owns Fox.
Yeah,
and I
that's
believe,
true.
isn't Avatar a Fox franchise?
Yeah, it is 20th Century Fox.
Anyhow, and then you start talking about, like, I'm even getting to the point where I'm starting to look out farther now. I'm looking at next summer, the summer of 2023, and you've got, the first installment of part 1 of the Mission Impossible, like, kind of close of that franchise. They're breaking that into 2 movies. You've got Guardians of the Galaxy 3. You've got Indiana Jones 5. I mean,
which I have high hopes for, because I think they realize, we've got one more break. Sorry.
I'm fine with it because it doesn't have George Lucas involved.
Yeah, and I think they realize that they need to save. That franchise can't go out on 4.
No.
The Crystal Skull.
No, and it has to keep going. It's a moneymaker, and they just can't. And let's be honest, it's not. Harrison Ford is not the future of the franchise.
No offense, Harrison, but you got to pass that baton. You're listening to the For the People movie show with Andy Morgan, and we'll be back. I talk a little bit about The Northman right after this.
My name is Dr. Brandon Prevey, and I love being a dentist. I work with Drs. Curtis Taylor, Anthony Larson, and Paul Harris. When people ask where our office is, I actually have 2 answers. First, I spend part of the week at Logan Dental Associates, and then second, I spend the other part at Cherry Creek Dental in Richmond. Both locations are a full-service dental office and can take care of everyone in the family. Call or go online and make your appointment with the offices most convenient for you. Logan Dental Associates in Logan or Cherry Creek Dental in Richmond.
This is Ryan, My Mattress. I have a little bit of a bone to pick with online bed-in-a-box mattresses. If value is the combination of price and quality, these beds are not a good value. They cost about $1,000 and they last about 3 years. That's not a very good ratio. At My Mattress, you can get a $799 Sealy Posturepedic that will last you 10 plus years. The best value is at My Mattress. Isn't it time to sleep exceptionally?
Are you stuck-up, half-witted, scruffy-looking nerf herder?
I get so lost.
Welcome back to KVN News For the People movie show. Andy Morgan wrapping up this week's show. The Northman, this has got so much discussion. I don't think anybody really needs to hear a lot. So my only question with The Northman, in your mind, does it live up to all this hype?
I feel like I need to see it again. I liked it. The initial, it's wild, just like all the other Robert Eggers movies, The Witch and The Lighthouse. It's not as crazy as The Lighthouse. It's more probably in line with The Witch. I would just call it like a period historical piece. Just follows this Viking. I mean, it's really good, and all the detail that's put into it. It is a little wild. It has some crazy, some parts where you go, "Whoa,
what was that?"
Definitely, it earns its R rating for violence, and
I've heard it's a little gory.
It's grimy. It's kind of a grimy show in terms of blood and guts and things like that.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't know. I mean, Robert Eggers is just the guy's solid. It's probably not my favorite. I think The Lighthouse is probably my favorite, followed by The Witch.
I love The Witch.
Witch is a little more brooding and atmospheric to me.
That was just a cool. The Witch was everything M. Night is trying to be.
Yeah, I agree.
But actually pulling it off.
Or maybe even once was.
Yeah, maybe once was in the first 2 or 3 movies.
Yeah, I like it because I don't feel like Eggers makes movies. I think he makes movies for himself. And sometimes I think art is best that way.
Yeah.
I think if you're making it and you're pleased with it yourself, Like apparently he got into like fights with the studio about how long it should be, the tone it should be, and they kind of found a middle ground. And it's I don't think it'll be a commercial success, but it's definitely a critical success, and I would assume that it would be nominated for some awards. But we'll get into some more plucky stuff next week because we'll be talking about Doctor Strange and the Multiverse of Madness.
Then we can start looking ahead. You laid it out already, but we can start looking ahead at the summer.
Yeah.
Well, I'm excited for it. Next summer, someone asked me, "Are you more excited for the movies this summer or next summer?" It's a toss-up for me. There's 2 or 3 must-sees in each summer, so
agreed.
I'm excited about this. All right. Andy Morgan will be back with us next week here on the For the People movie show every Friday at 5. Dave Ramsey is next here on KVNU Logan.